Hey, yo, I want to talk about gaslighting as described here by the website Learning Network Western Center for Research and Education on Violence Against Women and Children. I'm going to read this in full because it is useful to know for our topic today. It reads, gaslighting occurs in intimate relationships when a partner repeatedly undermines and distorts their partner's reality by denying facts, the situation around them, or their partner's feelings and needs. It can cause a survivor to question themselves and become unable to trust their own perceptions and judgments. This gains the partner control and power over the survivor, whose self-doubt and erosion of confidence leads to an increased dependence on the partner who is behaving abusively. An additional benefit for the partner using gaslighting is that the survivor is more likely to stay in the abusive relationship. Gaslighting is a coercive control tactic that shifts the focus of concern from the partner's abusive behavior to the supposed emotional and psychological instability of the survivor. Does the Good Morning Magic video from principal designer Gavin Verhey, entitled The History of the Pre-Release Promos, constitute gaslighting? As we just read, gaslighting requires an intimate relationship. It must cause the viewer to become unable to trust their own perceptions and judgment, leading to an increased dependence and make the viewer more likely to stay in the abusive relationship. This video would need to shift the focus of concern from WotC onto the supposed emotional and psychological instability of the viewer. And if I'm being honest, I just don't think this video does any of that. And yet if we read the comments, this is Gaslighting 101. 12 minutes of mental gymnastics and gaslighting. Stop gaslighting us. Gavin just lost so much respect coming out here gaslighting. The amount of gaslighting in this video is unreal. And even in reply to my own snarky comment on the upload, someone said, the gaslighting goes hard in this video. Oh, and a quick shout out to the person who replied to me saying, you good people, Red Bobcat. Reading that made my day, so thank you. But my point is, am I saying all the comments accusing this video of gaslighting are wrong? No, I'm not. Perhaps they're definitionally wrong, but who cares? In language, the meaning of a word is less important than the sentiment its use conveys. For instance, I recently posited the opposite of ludonarrative dissonance should be ludonarrative euphony. And I got a lot of comments, sometimes one word, telling me I was wrong, rarely in agreement with each other, but all informing me of what the correct word was. Except ludonarrative euphony isn't wrong, because it achieved the exact result I intended, of making my point understood whilst being colourful and fun to say. It doesn't matter if someone says look out for that lion, if the warning was enough to save you from the tiger. So whether or not the people who commented on this video have actually been gaslit isn't as important as the fact they're clearly communicating that something in this video feels off. Oh, and if you really must, feel free to reply to my comment on there, but please don't track down anyone whose comment I showed earlier. Good Morning Magic is not my channel. Statistically speaking, those people don't watch my videos, and they didn't ask to be quoted by some cartoon doofus. I know my viewers already are, but I still feel the need to say please be chill. You good people. So, for context, this video is an explanation as to why, starting with Lore when Eclipsed, pre-release kits will no longer contain a promo card stamped with the date of the pre-release event. This sucks for many reasons. First and foremost, was this change announced or known publicly prior at all? I stay quite plugged into Magic and I didn't know the stamped promo had been removed. And for me, those fun collectibles are one of the biggest selling points of a pre-release kit. Knowing they had been removed beforehand would have affected my choice to purchase, and only discovering their absence after I'd parted with my money would have been a feel-bad. If I wasn't, I guess, lucky enough to have skipped the pre-release altogether because of Magic's rising costs. I felt like I dodged a bullet by being poor. I said in my beginner's guide at the start of the year that pre-releases were my favourite event, but the combo of rising price and removal of contents I think tips pre-release events into something I can't recommend anymore. Going forward, my advice will be that pre-release isn't worth the cost and should be avoided, and I doubt I'm the only one who's going to feel this way thanks to the constant shrinkflation, which I suspect will be bad news for game stores because pre-release events are usually pretty popular. They used to be a cheaper and fun way to get new people into the game and build a sense of community among players. And while I doubt this change will spell the death of pre-release events, the popularity and goodwill towards them will have certainly been dealt a blow here, which unless rectified will result in lower attendance for them going forward. In turn meaning lower sales for game stores, which it seems WotC would have you believe is deserved. More on that in a bit. But for now, let's go through this video, as it starts out with Gavin giving us a history of the changes that stamped promo cards have gone through since the start of the game. Until at 6:54 he says, so finally, after much evolution, we've landed at what seems like the best player experience, and this is still what we do today. Fascinating that he would make this acknowledgement and then go on to list a bunch of excuses as to why, and I quote, the best player experience needed to be changed. First, he talks about how in Strixhaven, they moved away from a stamp with a specific date to a stamp with only the year, with the reasoning being that WotC, a company that makes hundreds of millions of dollars a year, finds scheduling a bit difficult. Oh, poor things. If only they could afford a day planner. Gavin says, cards are printed a long time before they're shipped out. I want you to remember that, and he says being able to shift around dates is beneficial and you can't do that if you've printed a date on a card. Beneficial in what way, Gavin? And for who? If you watch, he doesn't actually say. He says behind the scenes there are tons of reasons why we might want the flexibility to move a set around by a week or two. Okay, name one. What reasons? And while you, the player, never see these dates move around, it has happened many times. He goes on to say this is a benefit to everyone without specifying who that includes, and then gives an example of a benefit. A hypothetical example of something that hasn't actually happened, so I wonder why he brings it up. He did say they've already done this before, so why not tell us about one of those previous benefits instead of hiding behind a hypothetical? Then he goes on to talk about the promo's complete removal. He said enthusiasm for changing the specific date stamps for a year one was pretty low, something I can attest. So instead of therefore reversing that decision, they leaned more into it by just removing the stamped cards entirely. So it's your fault as a player that the promos had to be removed, because you didn't like the lower effort year stamps enough. I'm starting to understand the gaslighting comments now. He then explains that game stores had complained the existence of promo cards made inventory management harder, and so by removing them, WotC are just doing what they've been asked. Apparently, game stores have no problem maintaining inventory of cards that are the same card but have different art, cards that are the same cards but have different set symbols, cards that are the same cards but have different frames, cards that are the same cards but have different borders, cards that are the same cards but have different treatments, cards that are the same cards but have different foiling, cards that are the same cards but have different languages, cards that are the same cards but have different qualities, cards that are the same cards but have different rarities, cards that are the same cards but have different names, cards that are the same cards but are different cards, and even cards that are the same cards but are different as they have a bunch of numbers stamped onto them. But we're led to believe that cards that are the same cards but are different as they have a bunch of other separate numbers stamped onto them was a bridge too far. And so obviously these promos needed to be axed. It would be overwhelming for game stores not to. This narrative that game stores are the reasons players have to miss out is a dangerous one, and it's one that WotC keep using. The more fun to open set booster, and the more cards for your money draft booster needed to be combined into the worst of both worlds play booster because of game stores. It caused inventory problems, says head designer Mark Rosewater in this article introducing play boosters. Once upon a time, a store just had one booster to buy from any one Magic set. Now every set releases with both set boosters and draft boosters. Get too many set boosters costs the store money. Get too many draft boosters, which also costs you money. Now obviously this logic supposes a reality without jumpstart boosters or collector boosters, but even ignoring that, if WotC actually feel product overload is a problem, why are we getting so many sets this year? Each legal in every format, remember? And why do those sets have so many associated similar but distinct products? Seems like all this would be easy to get confused. And I do believe stores when they say this is an issue, but is removing the stamped promo from pre-release kits really the solution? If so, I have a better idea, game stores. If managing inventory of separate cards is such an issue, stop doing it. You could just choose to buy and sell every version of every card at the same price point. I bet players would be happier. Even Gavin said the existence of date-stamped promos created the best player experience, so don't advocate for their removal and instead sell them like any other card. I suspect you won't want to do that though because you know you could choose to sell certain cards for a higher price, but that's the point. It's a choice. I bet you already stock a variety of products from a variety of games so that any customer who enters your store has a chance of finding something they like. Inventory management is a pain point, but it's one you choose to engage with to maximize sales. No one's stopping you from stocking every shelf with the exact same product, or selling every product for the exact same price. And the discontinuation of a product is a removal of your choice to sell it. I bet you have a bunch of customers that would be happy to buy draft and set boosters, but you can't sell them anymore. Or to go further, I bet if a lot of franchises had a TCG, you would turn a profit, but you can't profit from something that doesn't exist. So this narrative that it's better for game stores for players to lose out on something that they like, is not only something that I believe to be incorrect, but also runs the risk of creating player hostility towards the stores. It seems to me WotC don't want to deal with the backlash to their unpopular decisions, and so are shifting the blame onto your LGS. I'm seeing echoes of gaslighting again. And this approach of what makes money for Hasbro being first, with what's easy for WotC being second, what's simpler for game stores being third, and what's best for the player being last, with distributors not even getting a second thought seemingly, In addition to this adversarial relationship WotC seem to be trying to establish between those beneath them in the chain, may result in players no longer showing up to shop at game stores, which will damage the Magic sales of those stores, in turn meaning they'll be less likely to order products from WotC, meaning less profits for shareholders. Jeff Bezos will tell you that customer last is a losing strategy. And Amazon did pretty well for itself. So the given reasons as to why date-stamped promos needed to be discontinued just don't make sense. Is what I would say if I believed these were the real reasons. I'm gonna veer wildly into speculation at this point, but judging from your comments I suspect I'm not alone in having these thoughts, so... In August of 2023, Magic announced the set codenamed Wrestling would be coming in late 2025. They confirmed at the end of 2025 we'll be returning to Lorwyn for the first time in 15 years. Notice no mention of Spider-Man in that year's planned lineup. Then later in October of 2024, Vice President of Design Aaron Forsyth and Senior Product Designer Daniel Nguyen told Polygon that Magic will have a tentpole booster release featuring Spider-Man. This is a full-size set, not a small thing. Now, head designer Mark Rosewater has confirmed on his blog that Spider-Man went from a small set to a medium-sized set, but he also said that Spider-Man didn't delay Lorwyn and instead, Lorwyn was delayed only because we slowed down the number of sets per year. It was 8 in line and we cut from 9 down to 7. So it became the first set of next year. It was never moved out of its number 8 position. But hey Mark, first of all, when you go from being the 8th thing of one year to the first of another, you actually do change position. That's just like how positions work. You can't say the first set of 2026 is the 8th set of 2025, because it's not 2025. That doesn't make sense. Unless you're going to say Lorwyn is the 16th set of 2023 or something, but now we're just talking gibberish. But also, Lorwyn may still have remained the 8th product you had planned for 2025, but by your own words, one of your previous sets had an unplanned change from a small set to not a small set, which even if that doesn't change Lorwyn's numbering in your head, would probably make you feel like you'd need to slow down the number of sets per year. So saying the only reason this happened doesn't involve Spider-Man, which you were specifically asked about, when you know full well the narrative around that set is that it pushed Lorwyn back, feels a little misleading. Because I think all of this combined proves that yeah, Spider-Man's upgrade to a full set is the reason 2025 felt too busy, resulting in Lorwyn getting pushed to the following year, and remember what Gavin said about how cards are printed a long time before they're shipped out, and this set was already being talked about in 2023, doesn't it make more sense then that the reason the date-stamped promos had to be removed is not because players just didn't like them enough, and it's not because stores find them too hard to manage, but instead that they were printed with their planned release date of 2025, and could no longer be included in pre-release kits once those kits were delayed, after the Spider-Man set had parachuted in to 2026. Again, this is speculation, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm not the first to believe this. At the beginning of that video, Gavin acknowledged that he was aware of the online speculation, so to then proceed to give us excuses that don't quite make sense, pass the blame onto players and stores, while not even acknowledging the 2025 to 2026 delay of Lorwyn, feels off. Repeatedly undermines and distorts their partner's reality, denying facts to the situation around them or their partner's feelings and needs. It can cause a survivor to question themselves. This gains the partner control and power over the survivor. Gaslighting is a coercive control tactic that shifts the focus of concern from the partner's abusive behaviour. This video by Gavin Verhey isn't gaslighting, but it shares enough of the hallmarks that I understand the comments. Patreon. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone that supports me, like 27 Publications, Eggboy the Particle that permeates all existence, Blank Space, Wanpako Jozu, Miss Murder, A Random Patreon, Ominous Jazz, and the rest of my patrons whose names are on screen now. I'd also like to thank the sponsor for this video, me and my Patreon page, where you can get your name credited on screen too. Check it out in the link in the description below. Hit the like button, leave a comment, point out that Gavin's video came out like 3 weeks to a month ago, and already the conversation has moved on to the fact that WotC are getting sued by their shareholders. But I'm just one man, guys. These are topics that are worth being talked about. I realise that the pre-release kits for Lorwyn is already several news cycles old, and Lorwyn's already been out like a month or whatever, but I'm just one guy. I've only got so many hours in the day. Most importantly, subscribe and share this video with a friend. Hit the notification bell and do all those things the algorithm loves. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, or you want to see me do a video on another subject, and I've got such a list of things to talk about, let me know and I will see you next time.